Hi, I'm Ron Kubitz. I'm on the social media committee here with the PHRA, and it's my pleasure to have a chance to chat with Kris Dunn. Kris just gave an excellent opening keynote here at the PHRA, and just briefly, he's the Chief Human Resource Officer for Kinetics, also oversees and has some great blogs, Fistful of Talent, as well as HR Capitalist. So welcome to Pittsburgh, Kris.
Thank you. It's great to be here. What a great conference.
Well, it's off to a good start, that's for sure. So maybe for those of you out there who are not familiar, let me ask you, Kris, and I know on your website it has a 30-second elevator speech. What would be your 30-second elevator speech?
That's a good question. So I'm not prepared, right? Which is ironic. So 30-second elevator pitch on me. So I'm a career HR professional who 6 years ago decided to blog every business day for a year and see what happened. As a result, created something called the HR Capitalist. Got an opportunity to create a multi-contributor blog called Fistful of Talent. And by involving myself in that, I've been involved and grown in ways as an HR professional that I could never imagine 6 or 7 years ago. So the elevator pitch is, I'm an HR guy in the field doing the work and writing about it and trying to interact with people like you and people at the conference.
Great. Now, your presentation today talked about the 9 phases of HR, as well as many other good details. Can you just give a brief overview of that, and what phase do you see yourself?
Sure. So the overview of the 9 phases is that whatever number of HR professionals you think there are in the United States, and I think SHRM, for example, has about 250,000 members. So I'm a believer through the work that I've done and what I've seen, people I've talked to. I think you can divide those 250,000 HR people into 9 phases. I think it's it. You can segment it to that level. So what we do with the 9 phases model is we basically look at the knowledge level and career level of people like you and I, and then we look at what we hear from business leaders is the most important thing they want in an HR professional to really drive the business forward, and we hear that's the ability to innovate, drive change, and add true value. We do some of that through an assessment. So you take career level up the x-axis, you take those other factors across the y-axis or horizontal, and that gives you a 9-box grid, and that becomes the 9 phases of HR. So your other question was, which phase am I? Yeah, it's a great question. I think through the vast majority of my career, I've been a grinder. I've been the person, I'm a generalist by trade, so I've been the person with the client group doing the work in the field, like almost everybody at this conference. I think at times I've segued a little bit to the right into the assassin mode. And when I've been a senior leader with a big team, I've also kind of taken on the mentor. So I think there's probably a circle that describes the range of who I could be across those 9 phases.
That's great. So in other words, you've matured and adapted, where I look at myself as the assassin and really don't want to change from there.
I got it. The assassin's a fun one to be, but it's hard to be the assassin when you have a team. And that's one of the reasons why when we talked about it in the presentation, the assassin's probably best as an individual contributor or an HR leader with a small team, because the bigger the team gets, the more complex it is, and the less easy it is to be the renegade that kind of typifies the assassin. So you're a renegade. I like that.
Yeah, I try to be sometimes. I'm reading some of your information in the past, and you have said in the past that recruiting is the foundation of great HR. In my opinion, and I wonder what your view is, most HR departments, to me, I think, just view recruiting as post and pray and don't really put a lot of effort into it. Describe that correlation there.
Well, so I do think recruiting is the most important thing for an HR function to be focused on. I also think, to your point, it's where HR professionals, if they're going to grow in any area, they really learn how to do recruiting in a value-added way. It's the easiest place to get business results because you're going to bring in great people. And also, from a selfish perspective, from a career perspective, it's the easiest place to distinguish yourself. From a historical perspective, HR people are generally, a lot of administrative people come into the function, and they like transactions. There's nothing wrong with that. It takes transactions and getting stuff done to just kind of run the buses on time from an HR perspective. But when you want to truly add value, it kind of all comes down to the people. So bringing the best person in, you don't get that through post and pray. You get it through sourcing, get it through developing relationships, selling the company, a lot of different things.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I would agree with you there. Many people might not know that early in your career, way back when, you were actually a NCAA Division I basketball coach at UAB. What are the similarities in your mind between coaching basketball and the world of recruiting and HR?
Well, I'll give you a quick story. My entry into HR, I exited the college basketball arena, went back, got my MBA, went to work for IBM Global doing some different things apart from HR. I wanted to relocate, and I actually called Bell South, where I used to work while I was getting my MBA. And they actually said, I said, hey, I'm looking to relocate back to the Southeast. Do you guys have anything for me? I was trying to network. And they actually said, well, you know what? We don't have anything in what you used to do, but you used to be a coach. So you know what? We've got this HR manager position. Would you be? And that was actually the entree. So I tell that story to say, hey, everything's in there. Employee relations. You deal with players. You've got employee relations. Recruiting. Obviously, there's a direct correlation there. Engagement. Like, teams ebb and flow across the season. So really, I could take it all, and that's one of the reasons why I write about sports so much at the HR Capitalist and Fistful of Town, because I think it's the easiest way to pull stuff out of the headlines and draw correlations to what we do as HR professionals in the field of HR.
Now, you mentioned HR Capitalist and Fistful of Talent. Now, you've been very successful on your Fistful of Talent, really putting together a great team of people that are very knowledgeable. Was it easy to assemble that team? Did it take a long time to really get those professionals to work with you? So
what I did, HR Capitalist was in place about 18 months before I started trying to develop Fistful of Talent. So what I did was I actually took the best audience I had access to. I ran a help wanted ad on the Capitalist and said, hey, if you like this, I'm starting this thing, which became Fistful of Talent. I didn't know what the name of it would be. I said, if you like this at the Capitalist, you've always wanted to do this, starting this other thing is going to be multi-contributor. Tell me you want in. Let's talk. So I ended up with 45 people who originally raised their hand to apply. I required a writing sample, so there's an automatic barrier there. I think 22 people actually gave me a writing sample, and I think I selected 8. So there's your recruiting funnel right there. And the funny thing is, 3 or 4 times I've had people come up to me at conferences like this one, and they introduce themselves and they say, whatever, hey, I'm Ron, of course, I'm bad with names, first of all, but I always say, oh, hey, great to meet you, et cetera, et cetera. There's pregnant pause. It's happened 4 times. And there's a pause, and I'm like, hey, and they say, you don't remember me, do you? I'm like, I'm bad with names, so help me out a little bit. They said, you told me no at Fistful of Talent. So that's a little uncomfortable when that happens, but it's all good. So it hasn't been hard. The main thing is people have to write like they talk, which is the biggest barrier, because we try and do it in a very topical way at the law show.
You could always tell them they were a close number. They were a close number 10.
Yeah, you were a finalist, is what I would tell them.
Now, you're the Chief Human Resource Officer for Kinetics, which is a recruitment process outsourcing firm. What exactly is a recruitment process outsourcing?
Hey, real simple. So recruitment process outsourcing, RPO, just basically says when people need help, instead of giving one position to a recruiting organization like ours, they give multiple positions. So we have clients that we outsource their entire recruiting function if they have that need. We also have clients that say, hey, across these 100 open positions, where are we really struggling, where we need some help? And they might carve out, a project, 10, 15, 20 positions to get some help. The main thing about the RPO model is, unlike contingent recruiting, if we get a commitment from a partner that they really want to partner with us, we can do quality work that get their cost per hire way under what a contingency recruiter or even, and certainly a retained recruiter would charge you.
Sure. So you obviously recruit over the whole gamut of, you're not just looking for HR folks, you do the whole gamut.
Yeah, we do all the skill sets, although, as you might expect, people struggle with technology more than anything else. So internal HR departments tend to struggle with technology, so we do probably more of that than anything, but we recruit across all of the skill sets.
Okay. The theme of our conference this year for PHRA is change, evolve, and grow. How do you see the world of HR changing, evolving, and growing over the next few years?
Well, I think to me, becoming less transactional. They read my bio today, and it's something I truly believe in. I think that the way the function has to evolve, and even if you've got a department and you're trying to evolve, it all comes down, transactions and doing the daily stuff, if you let it, will expand to 100% of your day. It's just like if you let email run your life, email will run your day. We can all relate to that. Same thing with HR. Transactions can run your day. So it's all about, I think, the way we're evolving as a function. The people who are doing it well, the people who are contemplating what I need to do to add more value. It's all about squishing those transactions down to the lowest percentage of time possible, and then making sure whatever adding value means to you, making sure that you have time to do that stuff at the upper end, starting with recruiting, and then other things, performance management, engagement, whatever you're doing, you gotta carve that down. That's how I see it evolving.
Okay, great. Speaking of evolving, let's talk a little about wrestling. As we skip subjects.
Good transition.
There we go. That's right. I got to do something. I'm curious, and maybe I shouldn't assume this person's your favorite wrestler, but who might be your favorite wrestler and why?
Okay, so that's a setup, because obviously he's a blog reader. So my favorite wrestler would be Kane, who's the brother of The Undertaker. I feel foolish saying this on camera. So Kane is a guy named Glenn Jacobs, who I played college basketball with. He was center on our college basketball team. So Kane, brother of The Undertaker, wears these crazy outfits. He's got a great gig. He's been doing it for 14, 15 years. Best man at my wedding, roommate of mine in college, teammate, and of all things, get this. So behind this big character, he's like an honors English student. And the career he chose ultimately was wrestling. Crazy story.
He's sort of like to be the modern version of George Steele, I guess, a little bit.
That's right.
Yeah, great. Well, keeping with that sports theme, obviously you've done some coaching, you've done the HR side. If you were to pick a fantasy draft, let's say you're having a fantasy draft, you have to pick coaches, who would be your first draft pick as your favorite coach that would really relay a lot of the management skills that you hold near and dear to you?
So that's a tough question, and I'm not really prepared to answer this. So I'm going to give you two examples, or I'm going to give you two answers. First of all, if recruiting is required, I've got to go with John Calipari from Kentucky. And a lot of people hate Calipari, but I would just tell you this: results. I mean, he's a recruiting machine. And he used to be, like, in his early days, he was a GA, I think, at University of Kansas. I actually met him for the first time there. Just sharp guy. So if recruiting's required, you've got to go with Calipari, because he's got a machine that won championships, so obviously the organization is good. If recruiting's not required, I don't know. I think I got to go with Belichick. Because in the NFL you don't have to draft, and Belichick's done it. He's got this core with Tom Brady, but the salary cap means that he's had to do it a variety of different ways. Running the ball, obviously throwing the ball always with Brady, so I'd probably go with Belichick. And he's certainly not a huge motivational guy, and he still gets all those results. I mean, if you've ever seen his press conferences, he makes us look entertaining.
Yeah, well,
right?
That's true. But you're very entertaining. So we're coming to the end of our time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Certainly enjoyable. Where are you off to next? You have another engagement, or you get to actually go back and do some work?
Some work, yeah. Some work would be good. Let's see. Next up, I go to Houston for a corporate customer, so I'm speaking in an HR group there. Probably lay out some of the 9 faces and probably more of a workshop thing. So I've got that. October is the conference season. Going to Tampa, going to Boston, blah, blah, blah. Hey, all the hotels look alike, but this is a great conference, so I really appreciated being in Pittsburgh.
Well, we certainly appreciated having you here, and thank you very much for your
Thanks,
time.
man.
Staying over to talk with us.
Okay, great.